It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Sister Speak Brother Break Show with Marcy Bush. I am Marcy, and I am joined today with Colby Harris. I'm joined by Colby. This is actually the second episode. We thought we were going to be able to, I thought we might be able to do it in one, but that did not happen. And so if you weren't able to see the first episode, this might be a good time to go back and check that out. Because we're moving on into his story. And I think there are some very important points that have already been made about what has made this young man who he is. And so at the end of the last episode, we were talking about the losses that Colby has experienced. And so he's the middle child of 9 boys. And he shared with us that at this point in his life, he has lost 3 brothers and his father. And so we're just talking about loss and the role that it has played in his life. So that's where we're picking up. So Colby, thanks for being here. And like we said, we're just going to jump right back in. What you've told us about who you lost, so to speak. But were there any truths that you became aware of after those losses? Or I can put it like this too. What have you learned about loss and its effects?
I learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot from when you go through that many experiences, like death is around you. Like, I think about it a lot. I prepare my kids in that way.
Okay.
I prepare my family, given that happens to me. It becomes like this, like I'm no stranger to it now, right?
So how do you prepare them?
Just conversations, and it's just like, look, if something happened to me, this is what you're supposed to do. Okay. This is what I left for you. This is the steps that you need to go to move forward.
Okay.
The conversations I also have with my brothers. I let them know, like, and it's probably fresh. What happens to our legacy? What happens to where we're supposed to go if something happens to me? Who picks it up? Who continues on? Like there's like, it has to be a mission. For us, I feel like in the conversation I was having with them was like, many of us haven't seen a win since slavery. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that deep about it. Post-slavery, post-segregation, like, when are the wins? When do your family finally get to a place where it's like, all right, we're good, right? And you're setting up the next generations to fall into this opportunity where they don't have to struggle, or they don't have. So for me, it's about making sure that legacy is left. So the conversations, which is for a lot of us, are hard to have, but I deal with the reality that it's possible, right? So yeah, I prepare them. I have the conversations. Even when we were going through the losses, I would sit my kids down and I would have that conversation with them, and I would cry with them in those moments of like, oh, when you lost your uncle, your grandfather is gone, and just have those conversations. Only for, I guess my reasoning for it, I think we grew up in a situation where where having these conversations was foreign. You know, so like, you don't tap into your feelings. It's not about this. It's not about, so for me, I want to create a healthy environment. So my kids I've only ever seen my dad cry twice.
Okay.
That was well, 3 times. I've seen him cry 3 times. One, I seen him cry when Christmas, and he didn't have any money to provide gifts for his kids.
Okay.
The other time I've seen him cry is when I was in sports and they were saying that I needed back surgery. I seen him cry then. And the last time I seen him cry was when he was wrongfully sent to prison. He went to prison, came out in 7-8 months, and he was just talking about how other men don't have a lack of care for humanity, and he cried about being in that situation. But so for me, with my kids, I shed a tear and I let them know that, like, all right, Pops ain't just this tough guy. I may be to the public or I may be outside, but when it comes to you, I'm human too. So yeah.
Where do you think how did you come about that? Like, how did you find, because like you said, this was foreign to you.
Sure.
So when did this become familiar, or what made you know that you needed to make it familiar?
Yeah. When I realized that the things that I can't control is never gonna stop. Right? So for me, it's like these things are happening, and like what do you do? You act like they don't exist? Like, no, you either become changed by it, you conform to it, like whatever you do. And for me, it was just turning this positive spin off of it, using it as an opportunity to learn from it. And I mean, you know, one thing I think about like now is like what differences or what things would have been said having those conversations with my brothers, with my today. Like, if I had those conversations with them, what regrets or what things would they say? You know, and it's like, for me channeling that thought process allows me to think of like, all right, what I'll give it to you straight like this. I think about all the time, like, what happens if something happens to me, right? The one thing that I know is consistent. The world is going to turn anyway, right?
Right.
Everybody go back to regular scheduled program, and that's what happens. People go to live their life, and the feelings that you had become faint. You know, like what happens in those moments. So for me, it made me really want to hone in on the moments that I can make memorable for them, but also cherishable for me.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's good. So can you remember what the pivotal point was in your life that caused you to go from, I guess, seeing the negative or knowing that you had to make it, you had to, like, okay, we're struggling, to like your feet being planted, and you know, and okay, I gotta pivot, I gotta swing this. Do you remember what happened to bring you there?
Yeah. I remember a conversation I had. This was before the storm of the deaths, right? We were outside. We lived in the cul-de-sac, so we were all talking, and it was something that was happening, but like, God has gifted me with this vibe, like I could feel energy. So, and I can always, pretty much determine when things are gonna go, not all the time, but like, I would notice like certain things out there. It's like, nah, something about to happen, right? So, I remember being outside and having this conversation with all the guys, and Marcus was out there, and I was like, something is about to happen, and it's gonna happen real close. But I didn't know what I was saying. I just knew that something was gonna happen. And then a few months later, he get killed.
Okay.
So for me, it was like, then I started to understand, and all right, this is a loop. Like we're stuck in almost like a trance. Like why did these things keep happening? Someone lose their car breakdown around the same time of the year, every year. Somebody get locked up around the same time. Somebody dies around the same time. It's like, what are these seasons and what are they? Why are we experiencing these things? And it allowed me, those deaths allowed me to really kind of push back and look at things from a broader perspective, opposed to staying in the moment and only being in that moment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we're gonna kind of come up some. Do you feel like are you satisfied with where you are right now in your life?
I'm satisfied with where I'm going. Right? I guess to a certain level of satisfaction, you have to have some type of, comfort there. And I'm not comfortable, and it's one of the reasons why, I had this conversation with my brothers about, hey, look, like what happens if something happens? What happens? What we gonna do? Like how do we move forward? Who gonna pick it up? Because we don't know. We can't play these. So for me, I really feel like I don't really get the, as weird as it sounds, I don't, maybe my son, maybe his son, right? But I don't get because this is the time to sacrifice, not to be satisfied. This is where I'm at. Like we on a mission. We have to continue the mission, allow that to be a thing. My son pick it up, and then maybe we could live in the glories of what your grandpa really sacrificed. But till the end, it's like, nah, yeah.
Gotcha. So when you look back over your life and then you look at your children, these children that God has entrusted you with,
Right.
What is your desire for your children's future? And do you think you have that desire from where you are, or was that desire birthed from where you were?
I believe it was always in me. I believe it woke up with the situations, right? Because I always knew that I was different. From my children, I don't know. I want them to be fearless, but dangerous. In the sense of like we're continuing this mission, right? And I don't think it's just a different walk. It's a different tone. I heard a coach a while back, and he said the way you should walk, this is how you should think about it, right? And it was powerful to me, and I truly understood what he meant. He was like, when you step, the earth should move, right? And I learned the art of making the earth shake when I walk, right? Okay. So for me, it's like I want my kids to have that same mic, where it's who is that when they walk in the room, right? Like, who are they? What do they do? Like, but you just know that there's a light. There's something that's trailing behind them, and they're here. They're showing up for a reason, Right. If somebody powerful walked in the room now, the people would probably be in awe of the moment, but you would probably download that moment to be probably one of the most memorable moments of your life. And for me, it's like the unseen part. Like that's the part that I want for my children. Everything else, I believe it'll come. As long as they, use what my wife and I instilled in them, like they're gonna be good. And organically, whoever God wants them to become is gonna happen, right? Okay. I just want to make sure they got the tools and the resources to become that faster, right? A lot sooner than I did,
right?
So yeah.
Do you, when you look back over your life, and I heard you talk about your wife and all, who are some of those people that you feel like made again, because of our previous conversations, I know some things, but like, who are some of the people that you can thank for where you are today?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. My wife, homegirl held me down. Like when I was just, only way I could really say it, when I was a bum, like, and my brother had just got killed, and I didn't know. I know I didn't want what I was experiencing. And she was tough enough to stay around when I was going through the processes of becoming a man, just really understanding what I was gifted to do, you know. And also my stepmother, like, she played an intricate part. She was sent. Like, there is no way, like, I don't, like, nobody. I've never heard of it. And I'm sure it exists, but I've never heard of it where somebody come in, take care of 7, 8 boys that's not yours. Like, I don't think that's a thing. Like, you was sent. Like, somebody sent you on a mission and to ignite this little boy at a time, and this little boy is, you know, about to take on the world. So like, that's like, for me, that's, I know, of course, other little people in between, but the huge, like, contribution, like you said, you would probably imagine me being somewhere different with the situations, with the losses, right? And like, man, look, I don't know how God holding this thing. Like, I just don't know. And like, I don't think humanly we have that power to uphold yourself to be what you are, and in the capacity that it is, without understanding that, you know what I'm saying? There's some divine workings behind it. There's something else that's going on that I can't truly understand, but I see a lot of the moves. I see a lot of, okay, all right, God, I see this, I see that. But just knowing that whatever your story is, whatever your greatness is, like, it's beyond you. It's like, this is beyond me. Like, when I go and I speak, I zone out. I zone out into a place. Beyonce talked about, like, where she talked about how she turned into Sasha Fierce, right? For me, like, that's who Cousin Colby is. When I'm in front of these 300, 400, 500, 600 students, and it's like, I'm zoned, but I'm so determined. Like, it's the mission. Like, I'm determined for you to get it.
Right.
Because nobody gave it to me. Like, but you may get something out of what I'm saying. So
when we talk about the losses, and then as I'm looking at you, it's almost like sensing that not only did the enemy want you to lose, he wanted you to be gone. Because this right here is the reminder to me. So tell me about what happened right here.
Yeah, so when I was 17, I got in a car accident, and I was working this was my first job. It's funny, because I think I got like the first check somewhere. But anyway, so we were leaving, closing up shift, and I was getting a ride from my manager to go home, or ride home, and it was 3 of us that was getting a ride. She was driving. She had just got our new car. One of the guys was in the front. The guy was sitting next to me, but I was sitting on the right passenger side. But I was due to get dropped off first, because the route, my place, you know, where I lived at, it was, you know, first on the spot. But for some reason, she didn't want to go that route. She skipped it. We passed my house, and, you know, I'm just kind of down for the ride. All right, let's go. And we go all the way into Hepzibah, where they stopped putting the street lights up. We drop off one of the guys, and because she got a new car, the guy in the passenger seat asked her, he's like, "Yo, you ever maxed out this car?" And I think maybe it was around that time Fast and Furious was a thing, so a lot of people was like, felt like they could do what they do in the movies.
Right.
But anyway. So she started to max out the car as we're leaving, and we're on this weird road where you have to actually, in order to see the stop sign, you're coming down a hill. Like you can't see it unless you read the sign before then. So she's going, I don't know how fast. At that moment, I remember like, all right, and this is me tapping back in, just knowing that God, like, just give me this gift of vibing out energies. So I'm there and I'm like, man, let me just pray, right? Like I ain't no punk, but like, let me just pray. So and I prayed just in case something were to happen, right? And as soon as I open my eyes, all I see is lights. And at that moment, I felt her breaking, but everything went silent. Like everything went silent. I couldn't hear anything. And I'm looking at these lights and then boom, impact. And I didn't have my seatbelt on. So we get hit and now like the sound doesn't come back till impact. And then now I was on the passenger side of this, in the back, and now I'm in the middle of the car. And I'm looking, we're all kind of dazed at what happened. And all of a sudden I just start, what I thought was just sweat coming down my face. And then I touched it and I'm like, oh, I'm bleeding. And the guy in the passenger seat, he's like, no, you're not. And he looked and he gave me the big eyes. And yeah, so I got in a car accident and was the only one hurt. Probably could have died in that situation. And that was just one of my near-death experiences. So, yeah.
But again, he kept you.
Yeah.
He kept you. And I know that over the course of these, you know, as we continue these shows, I'm sure you will be back.
Yeah.
You'll be back at the table. I don't know if it'll be one-on-one, round table, but I know you have so much to give, so much to offer, so much to encourage people with. But before we go, as we're approaching the close of this show, there's a segment that we have called At the Core.
Okay.
And it's almost kind of like it's this series of questions that require anything from just a few words to maybe a couple of sentences. And so I guess the first one, if you had to describe your overall life in just 3 words, what would those words be?
First words that come to mind is like fearless, ambitious, and then I gotta throw like something different in there, like I was saying earlier, just dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is a synonym for Colby Harris?
I don't know. What would you say? What would you say? I don't know. That's a tough one.
Well, I guess I would say almost like a phenomenon. Like there is something that God has brought together here that is not normal, it's not usual.
Right.
It is you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so since you put me on the spot, I guess. What advice would you give to people who find themselves in the grips of grief right now?
The pain is inevitable, but the suffering is optional. And one thing that I learned just going through that is like, my dad used to say this: choosing not to choose is a decision, right? So you have one of many choices in those moments of grief. And one of those choices is like, you can choose to suffer. If you don't choose, you will deal with the suffering.
Right.
Or you can choose to not, right? So that's one of the things, and I just chose not to. I chose to allow this information or this thing that I was going through to empower me and push me. And it's different. You have when you go through that, you go through a different might. You're a different beast. You're different. You're different. You're different. I don't know how else to really tell you. You are different. The moment you go through death, and you have to go through the process of grieving, like it doesn't make you the denominator. You're not the lower tier. Like it puts you in a different place. So.
Okay. And the last one. If this conversation between us had to be edited down to your next statement, what would you want to say?
Death ain't the death of you. Yeah, death ain't the death of you. Like, and I think many people would allow, I'm not just talking about death. Anything that kills off or have died in your life or whatever, like that is not the end of you.
Yes.
That is usually the birth and the beginning of what God got for you.
That's good. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I think that's a wonderful note to end on. So I just want to thank you, Colby, for being here. Awesome. And I want to thank you all for joining us. And I do hope that you will join us next week. Same place, same time for the Sister Speak Brother Break show. Be blessed. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at thessbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together.
A few days just laying around, he took me to the emergency room. They ran tests and they said that I have Crohn's disease. So that's...
Were you familiar with Crohn's at that time?
Not at all. Never heard of it. So when the doctor came and told me and my parents what it was, we had to do some research. His nurses had to come in, tell me about it and stuff like that. But the most easiest way that I could describe what it is, because of course once you have it and everybody's saying, what's wrong, what is it? But the easiest way for me to explain it, it's a cold that comes every now and then that'll never go away. But medication keeps the flares down. But it has to do with my